Morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome to First Party Ad Buyers Community's fourth webinar. I'll just wait for another 2 minutes. So we just dropped in a reminder to all the attendees. So once we have all of them, we'll begin it. And yeah, thanks for joining, everybody. To keep it moving, we just dropped in a poll. And while we start the webinar, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, if you want to discuss on something, I really appreciate if you can put it in the chat, and we'll be discussing all those questions at the end of the webinar. And we have the organizers to keep it engaging and more informative. We have put some polls, questions in the chat box. Please engage. And once again, if you have any queries or doubts, something, please drop it in the chat, and we'll be discussing all of them at the end of the webinar. Thank you. So once again, hi. Good morning to some, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. So thanks for joining to First Party Ad Buyers Communities, the fourth webinar. And we've been trying to be consistent in the webinars every post. And we also make sure that we share something and interesting content out there. So this week, and the webinar is all about the recent Meta's report on first party data. So Meta, in the last 2-3 years after this privacy complaints and everything, Meta hasn't spoken really about first party data. But I think in the mid of August or late July, Meta has released a report that why advertisers has to start use first party data and why first party data is the future. So we have two extensively expertise in this industry of technology and data who actually dig deep in this Meta's report on why advertisers has to use first party data. And before that, I wanted to share something very interesting with you guys. Usually we do it live, but given the situation, I wanted to share a very happy news. We from Customer Labs has been voted first on the category of innovation technology product by people's vote. We have won first, and our founder and CEO is in the US to receive the award on behalf of the team. So I first of all wanted to share this to everybody who's voted and who's engaged everything, and that's the very reason why we aren't able to do it live this session. And we have recorded this session, and we wanted to make it very engaging for you. So yeah, the first very happy news that we wanted to share is that we have won the TMW award 2023 for the most innovative marketing technology under people's vote. So thank you so much, guys, whoever voted, and we wanted to share this delighted news to all of you. And I think we have everybody on the call joined, and I think we should start the webinar. So I'm just going to share the recording with you all. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat box, and let us know if you have any questions. We'll be discussing at the end of the session. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to many. It's good morning to me and Vishnu, and good afternoon to Adam. Thank you for agreeing, both of you, for joining to this session and to have a brief discussion. So I've been eyeing to have you on the webinar for a very long time, and I think Vishnu helped me. Yeah, so Vishnu helped me to have you, and thank you so much, both of you, for taking the time. And yeah, so it's been a pretty long time since we did a webinar from our community, First Party Data Media Buyers. So this week we are going to discuss on, at last, Meta has spoken about first party data. So when we looked at the report is absolutely brilliant. The use case is pretty great. Did we actually realize the limitations in Meta and other platforms already? Yeah, we pretty much did. And are we already using those use cases for the lead generation business and e-commerce businesses? Yes, we are actually doing those use cases to the brands already. And are we seeing results? Absolutely, yes. But it has been 2, 3, 4 years now. And why did Meta now speak about first party data and not before? And what message does it send to the media buyers or brands or advertisers? What does it actually mean now? So this discussion is going to be pretty much decoding of what did Meta actually mean by this report and what message does that send. To talk about it, I have two experts. One is Vishnu Venkayala, who is founder and CEO of Customer Labs data platform, First Party Data, and Adam, who is again CEO and co-founder of of Audience Lab, who pretty much are the experts in the area of data collection and data enrichment, who has already been talking about first-party data. I don't know, before the thing with Google or Meta could already. So who is a better person to talk about this? So that's the pretty much good intro about you both I could figure out. So thank you once again for joining. And who wants to open and who wants to answer this question first? Why did Meta actually speak about first-party data now? And what message does that send to the brands?
Yeah, I mean, Vishnu, you want to go first?
Yeah, Vishnu.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. The major problem is we all know the privacy regulations. That's the major problem. And the privacy regulations is one thing. The second thing is iOS 14. The moment iOS 14 came in, it's becoming very hard for ad platforms to put the data together eventually to optimize the whole algorithms. And to optimize the whole algorithms, you need a lot of data. And the data, if you are a brand owner, if you are a lead generation company, you should have it all the time. And the Facebook and Google is asking for more data. That's the very crux of this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the biggest thing. So I mean, the change that has happened so far, like with iOS 15, I guess to address that first, that's really what inspired us to build our own identity graph. Because, and I say this to clients, we realized that it's approximate, so it's not exact, but around probably 70% of the data that you get to a website is just missing. So Facebook's pixel, is around tracking probably 15 to 20%, maybe higher, but it's really fragmented data. So it's pretty scary to think that for every dollar you spend, 70 cents of that is just burnt, and it's not pixeled, it's completely wasted. So I guess the biggest thing is for us, when iOS 15 came out, we just were like, how do we create like a decentralized way to do this, where, we can get 50% or 60% or 70% of website traffic and then do something with it. So that was, I guess, the big thing is it really affected all ad accounts, because lookalikes didn't work, anything like that didn't work. So it was interesting. I think it really kind of separated the boys from the men and the girls from the women in terms of advertisers, because you had to get crafty. You had to think about how to do it.
All right, brilliant. So I think I picked up a question from your answer. So how do you think the adoption is going to be from the brands now onwards? Because we are actually seeing brands are taking a brief amount of time and a lot of convincing to them to adopt a first-party audience strategies, and they go back to fixing their campaigns and purchasing plenty of marketing automation tools, thinking that the problem is, but not actually understanding the root problem is audiences. So how do you think the adoption is going to be onwards, moving forward?
That's interesting. Do you want to start, Vishnu, and kind of go that way? Do you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, the basic problem here with the brands is the moment they think of first-party data, they always start thinking about their customers. If you look at any customer, even the medium size, let's not talk about Amazon's or Google's or Walmart's, but for a proper small and medium businesses, they probably will have 100,000, 150,000 customers over the last decade. So which means the moment someone says first-party data, give me your first-party data, that's not enough for the machine learning to learn from your customers, because 100,000 people over the last 1 decade, and very recently you would probably have about 10,000, 15,000 people. That is not enough. So the actual first-party data starts from anonymous users who is coming to the website, and how are we going to collect that particular data? How do you collect that behavior information? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to basically mimic whatever Facebook has been doing for the last 10 years in a proper legal privacy-oriented way. So rather sending data to Pixel and hoping that they will retain the data, they will use the data, we would simply mimic that, and we will create our own Pixel. We will capture all the anonymous users and set those IDs and take it forward. When it comes to adoption, the strategies as well as the understanding is very important. Earlier, there were no technologies available to do it, but now we have a lot of technologies, which is including custom app CDP, which just puts your own install your own pixel and automatically starts capturing all the data. That's the way I see it. Yeah, I mean, adoption has been it's good, but it's not fast enough because, like Adam mentioned, there is a lot of difference between men and boys, and that's what we are seeing. So people who want to take risks, want to move ahead, are taking the adoption forward. But people who are slightly laid back and trying to get this around things, that's taking slow. But then there is also one more problem. There are a lot of people coming into the play and eventually causing a lot of confusion around what is this, what is that. That is also taking a lot of time for people to adopt these kind of things.
Thank you. Yeah, so I just wanted to reiterate or maybe make it the first party data thing a little more. I wanted to understand the first party data concept a little more wider. So like anonymous users, can you just talk something like how the importance of anonymous website visitors and the importance of the data collection of that? So when we just Google about first party data or anybody we ask about first party data, initially when we speak to a brand, let's say lead gen or e-commerce, they say it's first name, last name, form fill data and all of that. But importance of anonymous data and why should brands actually start collecting them, and can you just throw some light on anonymous website visitors, like how should and why should or where should the brands or regions should start them and why should they collect it, all of that? Just throw some light on that, please. Adam, can you?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing comes down to like the walled gardens, right? So there's a reason why if an ad is doing really well on Facebook, why you can't just download that data and then use it on the trade desk or something, right? It's because the way that these platforms keep you in the platform is by keeping you in the ecosystem. So it's in their best interest to remove interest and really get you to rely on their platform and their pixel. So I guess what is interesting is we're seeing a lot of brands start to kind of flip the story a little bit, where it's like instead of it being you go platform first and then you identify the audience and kind of take the inventory you're given and have that feedback loop, it's becoming audience first. So we're actually seeing, because we buy a lot of data, and rather than just working with major data providers, we're working with a lot of massive brands and brand conglomerates that are building their own type of first party data resource of all their sales. And what's really cool is we're seeing a lot of brands start to use their own first party data to make it so they're not limited by one platform. And a common thing we see is that in the programmatic space. So not even just Facebook, like we're seeing people use real-time bidding methods to get really cheap impressions. And then they're able to capture that and then, take that data and then put it somewhere else. So it's interesting to see this kind of new generation of marketer that's coming through and starting to use first-party data to not game the system, but like jump over those walled gardens. You don't have to use the ecosystem of Facebook or Google. Like you can use all of them and create a really well-integrated marketing strategy.
I mean, I totally agree because we have been collecting this first-party data, especially the anonymous users. Like, for example, just to give some importance over Sarika's question. So when we say anonymous users, people who come to the site, did not fill the form, did not make the purchase. But these are the users who come to the site, show a strong behavior towards buying a product. For example, if it's an e-commerce product, they would have seen like 1 product, 2 products, 3 products, or 4 products. And they would have not purchased in the last 30 days, 90 days, but they're still there. So they don't have a name, but they have a profile in the background. So the moment you have the profile, automatically you should be able to use it. But till 2021, 2022, like Adam was mentioning, we never had a chance to import this data back into ad platforms because ad platforms are so locked. So they're never accepting this data in the format what we collect. So which means although the data was with us, although the brands were able to collect the data, they were never able to bring it into the system so that they would be able to use it. But then the good thing happened around 2021, 2022. The wall garden started opening up, saying, "Okay, can you give us some data? Whichever the data you want, just give us the data." And using that particular options, we are able to push the data back into the ad platforms. They would be able to use it. So now data collection on the anonymous users, clarify as high intent users, and then uh, import those high intent anonymous users back into the system or into the platform so that you would be able to use it. That's how the whole loop gets connected.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that part, the data collection part by any brand, any industry for that matter, e-commerce lead gen should actually collect anonymous website visitors data. And we already know they have intent. And if we can nurture them more, and they're definitely going to convert, rather than again go to the top funnel, fight with other competitors and show the ads, the same pool of ads among the competitors and get our share. Rather, we already have our own audience built, our own audience. Why not use that audience? So that's where this all boils down, like why brands has to collect anonymous. Thank you so much. Now I have collected my data, and how do I enrich the data? And Adam, I think you're the expert in the data enrichment area, so can you just show some light on why should brands actually enrich the data and some use cases on those slides, like enrich data users, and what are the use cases that you're actually seeing for your customers already?
Yeah, so I guess that's a good question. What it comes down to is there's, so in terms of like basics of how to track data, the main way that people are tracked in the data world is through hashed emails, right? And that's like almost like a digital passport they use to go from site to site. And that's one of the most accurate ways. And then there's something that's called a MAID, like a mobile ad ID. And, a lot of people are just focusing on tracking those. But what you can do is if you enrich that and you go to actual, offline data sources, then you're able to unlock all these different opportunities to contact that single individual. So if you're able to unlock phone number and you're able to unlock email and you're able to unlock, in-market status of when they bought a product previously, what you can do is if you're, let's say, an e-commerce store and you get 100,000 hits a month and you have the conversion rate of like 3%, I think United States average is like 2.58%, but say it's 3%, 90%, 97% of those people are just, it's a wasted traffic. So if you could match those up and then append that so you get someone's email and you get all these other data points, you have 5 more opportunities and 5 more ways to be able to hit that person up. And, we've seen people go from 2-3x sales just by taking that data, which is the hash, and then tying it to some type of personal identifier. Like when done right, it's a very lethal strategy.
That's amazing. Vishnu, do you have something to add in the same lines, as in now I have collected the data, now I have enriched the data. So for all those anonymous, I've enriched the data. Now I'm going to share all those data to ad platforms. Now, how do I activate those audiences? And how can I activate those audiences? Let's pick one industry. Let's do e-commerce first. Like e-commerce use cases around audience activation, please.
See, audience activation is very simple. So you run top of the funnel campaigns. Let's say you or I or Adam goes around multiple websites. The Facebook gets the data, picks it up, saying, okay, you are in the market for purchasing this X product. And when you run the top funnel campaigns or Advantage Plus shopping campaigns, ideally the Facebook should be using this data to show you the ad. So you are never aware of my brand, but the moment I know you are looking at XYZ kind of patterns in the web or in other stores, I would use the data and I will start showing you these ads. That's why you randomly start getting ads about based on your behavior inside other stores and on the web. This is top funnel. That is where the power of Facebook comes into play. The second is basically, okay, I have generated awareness and they came to my website. Like Adam was mentioning, it's always 2. It's not even 2 nowadays. It's about 1.5. And in the high AOV purchases, it's less than 1% conversion. So which means almost 98, 99% of the people are bouncing off the website. And out of these bouncers, let's say about 60-70% are high intent audiences. And we have a technology to collect those high intent audiences. Now we have their IDs to be able to send it back to Google, Facebook. When you want to re-engage these people using retargeting campaigns, the Facebook needs to match whether it is Adam or Sarika or Vishnu who came to the website and saw that ad, or else Facebook will never be able to show that ad to that particular person. That's where the extra enrichment bit comes into the play, where if Audience Labs, technology like Audience Labs would be able to say, okay, this is Sarika's hashed email, and this is Vishnu's hashed email, this is Adam's hashed email, hash email. These are the data we have, and send it to Custom Labs. Custom Labs enriches these profiles, attach that as custom information parameters, push it back into Facebook. Facebook uses these emails to identify Sarika who has seen white shirt, and to Adam who has seen, let's say, red shirt, and to Vishnu who has seen some blue shirts. So based on this, it would be able to match and be able to eventually start showing the ads. This is the concept of audience enrichment. The moment you also have this data, Facebook also relies on email address or phone number, so which means your audience match rate should ideally go up. So it depends on which country you are in, which state you are in, and the kind of cookies we have. We would be able to eventually get more match rates inside the Facebook, which directly proportional to. So if you show your ads to 1,000 people, you have CTR of 2%. You will be able to convert 2 people out of 1,000. Similarly, if you are able to match 2,000 people, you would be able to convert 4 people out of 2,000. So just because you're doubling the match rates, you would be able to make 50% more sales on the retargeting, which will have a feedback loop for the top funnel campaigns because it is keep on showing who is purchasing, who is not purchasing. So it will have eventually a compounding effect on both your bottom funnel campaigns and the top funnel campaigns. That's how it works for e-commerce. Adam, do you have anything to add?
I think I mean where we're particularly seeing this in mass effect is business to business. There's a new thing, not I wouldn't say it's new, but more of a trend that's it's happening. People are kind of more aware of is what's called B2B to C matching. And what's really interesting is like, you know, let's say I want to target SaaS companies over 3 million in revenue, right? If I go to Facebook, I can't do that. Whereas what some people try is they'll be like, all right, well, I'm going to go to LinkedIn and I'm going to go to Apollo or something and I'm going to scrape all this data, right? All these LinkedIn profiles and you have their business email. If you upload that to Facebook or any ad platform, you're only going to match a very tiny % of those people because it's not their personal identifier. So what you can do on the other end, instead of matching hashes to personal data, you can, and what we've seen amazing results in, is identifying business owners and then matching that data down to the hashed email to their personal. So it's people-based marketing, but through, you know, on an account level. So the result is you're able to run ads to direct business owners. And we've seen that as a massive game changer for using enrichment, because rather than, you know, going to Facebook and typing in interests and trying to just, you know, a lot of people say you should go broad on Facebook. And I think if you've got like $6,000 a day to spend on creative testing and stuff, yeah, you can, but it's got to build data in the first place. So if you're able to identify all the people that are lawyers and all the people that are XYZ job title, match from their personal info down to the hash, then and get, you know, more information on the personal data, then like what Vishnu said, you have a higher match rate on Facebook. So you go from, you know, targeting business emails and getting like a 2% match rate up to like 70, 80% by collecting all that data.
I think we got too many use cases and case studies here around. And Vishnu, do you have something to show around e-commerce as well in terms of how are we seeing the results? And if we break down, like you mentioned, if we break down the Facebook campaigns itself, like how like you mentioned, if we send audiences with higher match rate, it does has an influence on the top funnel campaigns, and it does has an influence on the bottom funnel campaigns, and it does have an influence on our shopping plus campaigns as well. So do you have something to show around on Facebook or e-commerce specifically, like how Adam has mentioned about the conversion metrics and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, so in an ideal scenario, how this structure should look like is when you run top of the funnel, you rely a lot on Facebook's knowledge to generate awareness. That's the first and foremost thing the audience should do. And when they do it, it makes a lot of sense for them to exclude the audiences in the mid-funnel audiences when they want to retarget, and exclude them so that you will never show these ads for your high intent people who already created awareness on your website. And you keep on spending money to create awareness on top funnels. Even Advantage plus shopping campaigns, the same scenario. You could still run for purchase, and it will start showing those results eventually when you keep optimization for purchase, but don't ask the algorithm to show for the people who are already showing intent in your website. This is number one. Two, have this mid-funnel audiences, mid-funnel campaigns running for the high-intent audiences who came to your site in the last 10 days or last 2 months, 3 months, even 6 months. Depends on your business. Even if it's 6 months audiences, even if it's 1 year audiences, start showing them for the next as a mid-funnel audiences. Number three, you have your DPA campaigns running. So DPA campaigns will keep on running these audiences again and again. So back and forth, you will keep on running these DPA campaigns. Now, it's very important to measure not by the ROAS. The reason is it's an incrementality of A to B to C. So if you just run DPA campaign just because it is showing 4 ROAS, it doesn't mean the top funnel and the mid funnel is actually not producing the ROAS. The reason why DPA has higher ROAS is because the top funnel and mid funnel has done its job so that you will have more people. That's where the DPA comes into play. So having proper audience exclusions and understanding the incrementality of each of these campaign types is very important so that you will see the highest incremental lift overall. Look at the ROAS at the platform level, but don't look at the ROAS or don't be very stingy on the ROAS at the campaign level. So understand the incrementality better. The models are not there yet. Even to do the incrementality, you need the raw data and platforms like customer apps to collect this data as well. So understand the incrementality, understand the basic concepts of how the algorithm works, and then structure your campaigns, and you can scale as much as you want. If Facebook grows, you will grow. If Facebook stops getting new users, eventually you will not be able to raise awareness. But if your Facebook grows, you would also be able to grow your business. It's basically directly proportional to everything.
Thank you. My next question is to Adam again on how do we actually see the future from here in terms of ad platforms itself. Like we know everything is moving towards automation, and automation is the next thing. So even the shopping plus campaigns or performance campaigns is all automation oriented algorithms, right? So how should the brands or media buyers or advertisers be prepared, and how do we navigate to the future, and how should we be prepared? Can you just summarize, or just 3 points? Okay, you had to do this, and this, how the world is going to be, something like that.
I think an advertiser, has to be more than an advertiser these days. Like you can't just adjust budgets and write copy. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be, you need to understand it from the data down to the messaging, down to the optimization and everything in between. I think I really see it as the best way to succeed is you have to start collecting your own data. I mean, you paid for the visit and it's your first party data. You know what I mean? These companies are making a lot of money by just kind of dipping their hand in the cookie jar for no reason. So I think that's the first thing, is you need to have some type of way to collect first party data. The second thing is I think, it's good to rely on the ad platform's algorithm because, like Facebook obviously has a very smart algorithm and things like that. But a lot of the data and a lot of the buying signals is based around, interests, and is based around predictions based on not really like people-based data, right? Well, it's not person-based. So what we found is the second thing is using person-based data. So, actual buying like actual buyers from brands, or we use a lot of in-market data. So we look at all the people who are going to buy XYZ product based on working with different bid streams, based on buying history from different brands. And then we activate that data inside Facebook. And then Facebook's able to do its thing a lot better. So I guess the first thing would be you got to collect first-party data, because otherwise you're just wasting 70% of your ad spend. I mean, as simple as that. And the second thing is, if you're not telling Facebook or you're not telling these ad platforms who your buyer is with some type of like people-based or person-based data based on sales, it's always going to be a prediction on engagement, and it can always be skewed. You know what I mean? Like I always say, I liked a Tony Robbins page maybe 6 years ago. I personally don't buy his stuff, but I always get ads for that. And that's wasted spend. So the first thing is, first party data and collect it. The second thing is then either use that data or another data source to be able to train the platforms to stop wasting your ad spend, because there's a lot of that going on. And then the third thing I think comes down to the feedback loop. You got to find a way to make it so that the data that you're putting in feeds into the first party data, and then you feed that back, and then you leverage the lookalike models, which are really good from Facebook and Google and so forth. But once you have that feedback loop that you've created and kind of stitched together, that's where you see performance really, really skyrocket. I mean, we actually use our pixel with customer labs, and we've seen huge drops by creating that feedback loop. Because what would happen is somebody would land on the website, it would then match up their hash. We would then match it to all their personal identifiers, boost up the match rate, and then lookalikes would just get better and better and better. And then as the lookalikes got better, more people would come to the site, and it was just this consistent feedback loop. So I think, those are the three things: is collect first-party data, identify people-based data so that you stop wasting money on cold targeting, and then create a way to have a feedback loop, whether it be for customer labs or identity resolution. Like, have a way where you're actually feeding it back to the ad platforms.
Brilliant. I got a t-shirt slogan from your words. Advertising is not about adjusting the budget and copywriting. It's about data. I got my slogan there. That was nice.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, I think as we see a lot of marketers, and, like there's this continuous thing where the media buyers blaming the copywriter and the copywriter's blaming the media buyer. It has to be a congruent thing now, from the data that you pick, which needs to actually have a seed audience that has sales in it or intent, to the messaging, then to the feedback loop. It's all parts that it needs to be one congruent system. And we don't see a lot of agencies really embrace that, which is why, they just kind of just test. That's what they do, is they just run lots and lots of ads. But we found that if you have that feedback loop, your ads run for longer, and it's more consistent.
Thank you. That's a brilliant t-shirt slogan. Vishnu, do you have a slogan as well? What do you have?
I don't have a slogan, but I want to quickly show what we have done. I mean, whatever Adam just mentioned, especially for the lead generation side of things. This is what we are seeing here, right? So Adam mentioned, okay, take that data, put it into lookalike, and what you're seeing here is eventually the lookalike cost per lead. Whereas if you look at the actual cost per lead, as a matter of fact, interestingly, they stopped running their campaigns at the top funnel the last 2 months. They're only using the lookalikes from the enriched data, whatever we provide, and be able to show. And just to show you around a little bit of their top funnel campaign cost per leads. Just a second. So that's the top funnel campaign leads. Eventually, what you're seeing here is the double the cost of whatever we are seeing. So they simply stopped doing top funnel campaigns. They're only using lookalikes, and they're using the retargeting campaigns, and that is eventually leading their whole business. And this is what they have been doing for the last 1 year, and this is how the whole thing's getting matched. So the algorithm has a lot of data, but we can actually fasten the process of learning for the algorithm. So think the algorithm more like a small kid, and if you can actually teach as much as possible about your business, it just boosts your boosts the learning of that particular algorithm. That's how you can fasten the process and see the results quite fast. All this said, there is one caveat: they should have traffic. If they don't have traffic, we can't work. I have seen a couple of clients, no traffic. Probably they had like 1,500 people coming to the website in the last 1 month, and they wanted us to work. No, in that case, your problem is not the first party data. Your problem is awareness. So spend more money on the awareness, bring more people, then we will come into the play. But if you expect us to work with 1,000 people who is coming to your site, or even 2,000 people coming to your site, this is not the problem you want to solve right now. You can solve this problem in coming months, the moment you have at least 5,000 to 10,000 people coming to your site a month. Less than that, it's like your problem is not this, your problem is something else.
I think that's interesting because we're a little bit on a different end of the scale where somebody's like starting a new campaign. Like if I am starting a brand new campaign and I have to buy data, essentially, you know, the early stages of a new campaign on Facebook or any ad buying platform is buying data. That's what you're doing. You know, usually like Facebook has about 50 plus conversions times the CPA in order to get out of that learning phase. So if you're testing like 5 audiences, 3 creatives, it just adds up really quick. So I think that's where I guess using people-based data comes in, because instead of having to buy the data yourself, you just go to somebody that's already bought that data and has already run those campaigns. And I think there's actually a really interesting example that we had, which I really like, because I can share it if you want, unless we're running out of time.
Yeah, go ahead. We have time.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just gonna do this. This is in Canva actually, and when I explain it, it's really interesting. So essentially, what we did is we tested how lookalikes built with people-based data compared to lookalikes built from Facebook. Right, same creative, same everything, and what we were looking for is the overlap, because a lot of people think that, oh, okay, so if I upload this list and Facebook creates a lookalike, you know, Facebook could have done that in the first place. And what I find really interesting is when we did this, there was less than a 1% overlap. So you can see here, when we took our data and we uploaded it to be able to build a lookalike, there was less than 1%, which means by taking people-based data and then uploading that to Facebook and then creating lookalikes from that, we were tapping into a completely different part of the auction and a completely different audience than you would have from website visitors, which is crazy because people don't realize that there's like this tiered system inside of Facebook and ad platforms where the data that you put in is going to change completely in terms of like how they're going to build their lookalike model. So I just think it's really interesting because it's like it's a whole different audience, and it's like completely different people and a completely different lookalike. Based on when you use first party or people-based data.
Yep. No, I totally agree. I mean, again, when you test it, you have to be very mindful of the parameters. When you test it, you cannot simply show different creatives, different stuff, and then expect this to work. And you're not going to scale this campaign to $5,000 a day. You have to start small, test it, and then start going ahead. That's how it is. I mean, the one thing I have always tell or always feel slightly disappointed is immediate results. Immediate results is you put in $200, $300 a day, and you expect the campaigns to work next day, and automatically you switch out the campaign and then say, okay, fine, this is not working. That's like very bad. I mean, you start with $10, $20, $30, see the incrementality, and slowly scale this up. And we may have to figure out multiple parameters into it. It could be creatives, it could be CRO, it could be multiple other things. But those are the things where I encounter with few of the clients. And then, I mean, it's a learning curve. I think, boys are different from men, as Adam said. So, it takes some time.
Brilliant. I think we are running out of time, and I think I'll just summarize the entire session. And I got two t-shirt slogans, one from Adam and from Vishnu. I'll reveal at the end. So, number one, brands, what they need to do is, let's say, lead gen or e-commerce, anybody for that matter, start collecting your first-party data. Number one, data collection. Number two, enrich your data, understand your users better, like what do they like, what do they don't like, and segment them based on the intent, like high intent, mid intent, low intent. Segment your mid funnel anonymous users and activate these users on the ad platforms so that the ad platforms actually understands, okay, these set of audiences right like red shirts and absolutely not pink shoes. So let's give them the proper user behavior data so the ad platforms understands, okay, this guy is likely to convert in maybe next 7 days or 14 days, and this is absolutely a junk lead. Let me not show the ad. So let's share as much as behavior data to Facebook, so the Facebook actually understand who is likely to convert and who is likely not to convert. So number two is audience activation. Number three, again, very important, exclusions. So that's where we control our budgets, right? So let's actually not show the ads to the people who was already bought in like last 15 days. Nobody is going to buy again in the next 15 days, right? So we'll understand the exclusions, we'll control the budgets there, we'll control the audience overlapping, and so collection, enrichment, activation, and Vishnu's slogan, which I pulled out, is do not just rely on the campaign ROAS, but improve the feedback loop, and actually see the incremental revenue that you're actually going to see maybe after 2 months, or actually running the campaign, and let the campaign learn at least. So give a period of like 30 days or 45 days to actually see the incremental revenue. So do not rely on the campaign ROAS, but look at the incremental revenue, and that will be the t-shirt from Vishnu's side. And like Adam mentioned, media buyers, advertisers actually should have the mindset of not just adjust the budget and write the and do the copywriting. That's not the world is going towards. The world is going towards collect your data, understand your data, and give that data to the platform.
Thank you so much for everybody being very active in the chat and stayed long until the webinar ends. So what we're going to do is that we're just going to pick the questions which was unanswered, and just drop in your questions in the chat if you have more questions. So what is Audience Lab look like? So what is Audience? So Audience Lab is again a tool where it enriches the anonymous website visitors. So like we discussed in the webinar, so let's say there is like you paid for the traffic and you got the traffic inside, right? So from the 100%, only 3 to 5% of the audience you have the PII information, as in email ID, contact number, first name, last name, all of that. So we have 5% PI information. Next, you have remaining 95%. In that 95%, let's assume the average bounce rate for a website, especially e-commerce website, is 30 to 35%. Removing the 35% of it, now we have remaining 60% of who are the high intent audience. Now, let's say when you wanted to do an email campaign for this 60% of audience, this applies more for lead generation businesses where you wanted to do a personalized interaction via SMS or push notifications or email. So now when you wanted to enrich the anonymous website visitors information, you can use Audience Lab, where they will be able to enrich the entire anonymous website visitors data for you to activate them in the PII conversational channels like email, marketing, all of that. So Audience Lab enriches your website visitors data. That's what Audience Lab does. I think I was able to answer that question. Next is, if you are looking for conversion, something more than 10,000 purchases data will bring you quality traffic to your PDPs. Yeah, like you mentioned, this is subjective, but what we suggest, especially in custom labs, what we suggest is that when you are actually activating your, so PDP is nothing but your mid funnel activators, or I can say high intent anonymous website visitors, right? So the larger the audience size that you're going to activate them, and your conversions are likely to be increased, Also, you should also make sure that you use exclusions rightly. So we have to exclude these custom audiences or these mid funnel audiences in your top funnel campaigns, as well as in your any other top funnel campaigns or ASC campaigns you're doing. You have to exclude them, which will eventually increase your conversions in this particular channel, also reduce your CPC. So exclusion is again a key, where if you're thinking to increase your conversions or purchases and reduce your CPP, exclusion is something that we have to be mindful about. So this particular frame question is very subjective, but to be in the perspective of e-commerce or lead gen businesses that we are handling with, this is something that we are promoting to them. Next question is, have started facing issues with fake orders a few months ago, and that increased when we activated lookalike. How does one prevent fake orders? So two things here. So I'll share one example. Our e-commerce brands itself had a huge number of fake orders. So one thing, I'll answer your question followed by, but one thing you got to do is that you should have a very strong payment gateway. So that will eventually help you reduce the fake orders, number one. Number two, we have to see which audience are you taking to lookalike of. If you are again using your purchases list for the lookalike, again you are taking a lookalike of the fake orders itself. So you should have a list of the fake orders that you've got and add them in the exclusions in your campaigns. So that should ideally prevent the fake orders. But custom labs, what we also help the brands is that we help them identify where this fake order came from. So from our 360-degree profile, we will be able to see which campaign did they come from, or which channel did they come from. Is it organic, is it direct, or is it paid? You will be identify all those things. So that's something that you can do for fake orders. So number one, have a strong gateway. Number two, create an fake fake orders list, so that you can add them on exclusions. Number three, be very mindful of what audience you're taking lookalike of. If you're adding your customer list in it, then you're likely to attract more fake orders. So this is something that we can do for that. What is strong data? So I I can't recommend you, but I find many of my customers are using GoQuick. There's something that they're using. Shopflow is there something they're using. I think Razorpay is also pretty good. And these are the tools that I come across people using. So I think Shopflow, all of that has pretty good helping in preventing gateway. But I'm not recommending any products here. So these are the tools that my customers are using. So you can check them out. So guys, I also have embedded the community link, so you can just join the community, and more discussions can be added there. And again, thank you for everybody to staying long to have an interactive session. So thank you for that. And secondly, I just wanted to inform you something else. We have a very strong white papers. We have a very strong strategies which we have used for lead gen and e-commerce. So you are the elite group here for us who has stayed long. So for you, we have some exclusive offers. If you take a screenshot of a webinar and post it on your LinkedIn and tag Custom Labs on it, just share us the LinkedIn post link on the form that we are sharing with you, and we will be sharing a leading India's fashion brands white paper and a case study on how they added 15 to 17% of incremental revenue over time. So we'll be sharing the strategies with you, and we'll also have a one-to-one demo call and a strategy call where I can give you a 30, 60, 90 framework on how to improve your first party data strategies for your business. Say it is for e-commerce and lead gen. We have a stronger case studies for both lead generation businesses and e-commerce businesses. So take a screenshot, post it on LinkedIn, tag Custom Labs on it, and you'll find all the amazing actionable white papers where you can implement them on your business right away and see amazing results. I think that's pretty much it from our end, and I'm also tagging in the Google Forms on how to do it, and I'll also be sending an email, the recording, if you wish to further look at it and check it out, and join us the community if you have any questions, and we are very active there. And I think we are good. Anything else, team members, that we'll have to say? Are we good here? Great. Thank you so much, guys, for joining. See you at another within a new webinar. And this is the first webinar that we have had a lot of engagement from you guys. And thank you so much for joining. And once again, good evening, good night, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.